Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, one of the things I'm most proud of on this podcast is that we've had guests from over 50 different countries and also listeners in 165 countries. And what I love about that is how we've all joined together and helped inspire each other along the way. And I want to continue to try and inspire you all today because I know that every single person listening to this podcast has a skill or an area of expertise. And I also know there's somebody listening out there shaking their head saying, "No, I wish I did, but I don't." Trust me, you do. Everybody does. And I'm a great example of that. I was an IT manager by day and built a side gig writing and podcasting way back in 2014 so that I can do what I'm doing now. But what if you could turn your passion into a successful online learning business free of no worries and just let somebody else worry about all the heavy lifting and all the tech stuff? Well, a tech company called LearnWorlds is enabling people all over the world to do just that. Essentially, it's an all-in-one platform creating and selling online courses, but built by edtech gurus for trainers, entrepreneurs, and so much more. So today, I want to take you all to sunny Cyprus so we can learn more about how they're doing this, the tech involved, and how they're helping individuals and companies build online academies for customer education, and what trends are happening in that industry. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Cyprus, where Panos from LearnWorlds is waiting to share his story. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Panos. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, Neil, and thanks for having me on your show. I'm Panos Siozos. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of LearnWorlds. LearnWorlds is an online course platform, one can say a Shopify for creating and selling online courses. So with my co-founders, we've been building this platform, and we are super happy to be able to help numerous course creators and trainers and professional trainers to launch their online courses and create their online businesses in a box.
And you're talking to me today in sunny Cyprus. I'd love to know more about your backstory if we go back even further. I mean, where did your passion for tech and learning come from, and what made you put the two together? Can you tell the listeners a little bit more about what put you on the path you're on today?
Sure, happy to. With my co-founders, actually, we go back almost 25 years, even a bit more. We studied together computer science in a regional university in Greece, in Thessaloniki, and then we embarked onto a postgraduate studies on educational technology. So, in fact, we created our very first e-learning platform back in 1999 as fresh postgrad students. So, I received a PhD from that department on computer-assisted assessment. And over the years, we built numerous platforms and e-learning applications, mostly always in an academic setting. So, we were on a track to become lecturers and professors. So we were creating a platform, testing it with a few dozens or hundreds of students, publishing a paper, attending a conference. But that was more or less the level of our ambition. Only after a few years after we started working in different businesses, we came back together and said, okay, we have to do something with our background. We were so dissatisfied with the state of e-learning platforms out there. A different way of doing e-learning was possible, that e-learning is not just throwing a 100-page PDF at somebody and say, okay, you have been, trained online. That's not how it works. So this is where the roots of creating an online course platform with our own take, with interactive, engaging user experiences would come into play. This is where we started thinking about that. That was about end of 2011, beginning of 2012. And this is when we started designing and thinking about how to create a platform like that. And obviously that fits with lots of changes in the overall tech scene, like, faster internet, video that actually works instead of what was possible a few years ago, being able to create with the cloud and all these online apps, being able to cheaply create apps without having the need for expensive or huge infrastructure, and also lots and lots of changes in how people actually work, learn, behave, consume, socialize. Lots more e-learning experiences, obviously online experiences. So this is where all these trends started coming together, and a platform like ours started becoming a necessity, a requirement to be able to work online.
Well, a great story. And it was that path that led you to LearnWorlds, as you said there. But can you tell me a little bit more about the kind of companies that you're helping and how you're helping them build online academies for customer education with your technology? Because it's incredible what you're doing here, but I'd love you to talk a little bit more about that and what makes you guys a little bit different.
Well, e-learning is everywhere. Actually, now post-COVID, or as we still go through COVID, e-learning has become more or less the default mode of learning. So it doesn't only apply in an academic setting, obviously, it applies to businesses, it applies to professionals, to professional trainers. So our customers come from all walks of life, and they are businesses of vastly different sizes and ambition and scaling stages and ambition. So we have individual trainers like creators or people who know a subject very well and are willing and interested in teaching about this subject. So it can be the individual prosumer, let's say, all the way to large companies that want to either educate their employees or their associates, or in some cases, even their customers. Increasingly, we see that education can be an amazing form of marketing, very subtle, very rewarding also, and very interesting and very effective. So if somebody has a complex product that they need to keep providing support and helping their customers use their product, they can do that so much easier by creating an online academy around their product and teach people about the problem that they're solving, but also about how to use a particular tool, whether it's software, hardware, a process, or anything else. So more and more e-learning becomes ingrained in how people learn. It's becoming more and more relevant. And that also has to do with how the entire economy is changing. We starting with a big financial crisis from 2008. Millions and millions of people over the years have become redundant or had to switch jobs, switch careers. So we are in a constant process of having to be trained and retrained and reskilled and retooled for the new kind of jobs that come before us, that come ahead. So learning is a constant mode. It's not something that finishes at university or at the postgraduate degree or something else. It's something that we keep to be doing. And not only for professional skills, but also for improving ourselves, for learning, like acquiring new hobbies, spending some quality time, learning something, improving our situation. So it's everywhere. This is why we're able to help also with a very flexible platform that we offer. We are able to help all sorts of people, from the individual creator who sells some online courses about, knitting or gardening or cooking or whatever, all the way to large corporates with more than 200 or 300,000 students that need to train their employees or their customers.
And there's so much talk around the great resignation at the moment as well, which ties into everything you've just said. But I'm curious, how has the pandemic affected the way we learn, do you think?
Well, as I mentioned before, e-learning became the default mode. Yeah. And we're not here to replace universities or schools. We are university people ourselves and started on an academic path. So we very much appreciate what schools have to offer and universities. But we see that increasingly the traditional educational system becomes a bit irrelevant in some cases. So let's say if a person today wants to become a software engineer, in some cases, going to a university and getting a master's degree and then the PhD might not be the fastest or the most effective for them route to follow in order to get there. And this is also why for so many years we see companies, let's say, complaining about the kind of skills that the people acquire in the universities and that they always need to be trained. So for certain skills, university or an academic path is not always the right way to learn something. And this is how all this fits with the changes that we see in the economy and the society overall. People, you mentioned the great resignation. I have seen it also be mentioned as the great renegotiation, because employees now have more options and they have more strength in some cases to negotiate and find a better solution. So in some cases, people abandon a traditional career and they try to create an online course or an online school. We've seen that in order to become independent, escape the grind, escape 9 to 5, and be able to become nomads, work from anywhere, anytime, be in control of their career and their working hours, and have a more balanced life. That's something that we were seeing before the pandemic, but obviously, as we have gone through this terrible experience, it has become much more relevant for so many more people, having the priority being not in putting how many working hours you can put per day, but how you can spend some quality time with your family and have your own priorities. And e-learning is we've seen that it can be a big part of that. We are now deeply in the knowledge economy. So what better than being able to create a knowledge product and sell it online 24/7 to a global audience? And this is actually what many of our customers are doing. They may be experts in their field, and they're able to package their knowledge into an online product and sell it to a global audience. All these things have become so much easier to do. So when the COVID, the first lockdown started happening, the interest in online learning obviously skyrocketed. So I have to say that our funnel almost quadrupled in almost overnight. People were trying in a panic mode, in an emergency mode. You can imagine all these small and or bigger schools, from a small yoga studio all the way to a training organization or to a school or to a university. They were trying to find solutions to actually stay online, stay in business, get connected with their students. Is e-learning the solution to everything? Definitely not. But can it help? Definitely it can, not only in situations of emergency like a COVID lockdown, but it can really complement an existing physical business, a brick and mortar business. So we've seen so many people that discovered e-learning pressured by COVID, but very soon realized that this online or hybrid business model that they can create can be so much very interesting and efficient. So okay, I can have a yoga school, let's say, or I can have a developer school, a data science school, a math school, or whatever in a physical setting. How many people can I teach per week? How many hours can I teach? Like 30, 40, 50? But if I convert it online and sell it 24/7 to a global audience, this becomes so much more important. This can become a huge business that can get me some great revenue with a fraction of the effort that I would put in before.
And I also love that you can serve the international audience and serve people those courses while you're asleep. It doesn't get any better than that. And two of the biggest trends that we've seen over the last 2 years have been around remote work and employee education. So I'm curious, have you seen a surge in demand, and are there any trends that you've seen recently?
Well, the biggest trend, let's say, is what I can say as a first experience from COVID is that it didn't just create things out of the blue, but it rapidly accelerated trends that were already there. So we were seeing from before the tendency to becoming a digital nomad, escaping 9 to 5, creating a side business, side revenue, passive income. All these trends were around when it comes to the work. Also, when it comes to acquiring skills and being retrained, we were already seeing the decline, let's say, of traditional academia, people not always being willing to go into huge amounts of student debt in order to get a degree that they will probably take. It will probably take them many years to get the return on their investment. And instead trying to do other kinds of training professional courses, executive education, in order to get the right skills at the right time, and always having to be constantly retrained. Like lifelong education is a clear necessity. So all these things were already there, and obviously COVID acted like a huge catalyst. The same goes for virtualization of experiences. Things like Netflix or online gaming didn't happen through COVID. They were there before, but obviously it became so much easier to do e-commerce, to do online transactions, to have virtual experiences, and all these things really help. So now, obviously, as I mentioned, we're not here to replace traditional like in-class training or physical events. We all want to go back to our usual ways of doing things, but I cannot imagine a company in the future, in the near or long-term future, that would like to train 200 employees or 1,000 customers and would get them in a hotel for 5 hours of PowerPoint. It will never happen. There will be a riot. Yes, we want conferences. We want to go back into rooms together, shake hands, have coffee, drink a cup of wine. In terms of education, things can be some online. By doing it online, things can become so much more efficient, effective, measurable. You can now create some amazing online experiences, engaging and interactive, not just passively watching a 60-minute video that doesn't work. It doesn't work in a classroom, and it doesn't work online. But we have so many means at our disposal to create really engaging experiences that people can access anywhere, anytime, whether they're commuting, whether they're lying on their sofas, and they can have some great experiences. And this is what our platform can offer to professional trainers or even to businesses.
Do you think technology will continue to accelerate that pace of change in everything from organizational processes to educators and learning behaviors? Are you still seeing that speed of change rapidly?
We see that. It took, there were obviously, even before COVID, the early adopters and those that made the first move were already there. But now I think everybody realized that they have to adapt. So we see the digitization of traditional businesses, millions of traditional businesses, small and medium enterprises that are trying to find ways to become much more effective and efficient, and allow remote operations and digital transactions. That happens at companies, that happens also at any kind of organization, even at the state level. So we see that this is becoming now the default mode. To give you an example, during the peak of the pandemic, there were about 1.7 billion school children that were using some kind of remote learning. In some cases, it was, a full digital experience with tablets and digital pens, and everything was happening online. In other cases, it was more rudimentary. In some cases, it was a photograph of a book that people were just using in their computer or sending an email back. But they have experienced how things can become online. This is not something that you can take back. It will continue to empower people, and it will lead to more and more hybrid experiences where we can do the things on the physical space that make sense, but we will also have more flexible options to do things online where it also makes sense and it can become productive. So I don't think that overnight we will see a replacement of traditional physical processes with digital experiences, but there will be more and more hybridization of these kinds of experiences, whether it's like talking to somebody, teaching in a classroom, taking an assessment, work, like being able to not just be fully remote, but work like some days go to the office and some days work remotely, and some days you can be working from the other side of the world. This is the kind of flexibility that people now show that it's possible. It is effective. It can work. So I think we will continue to see more and more of that.
And what role do you see emerging technologies like artificial intelligence playing in that future? It's a bit of a buzzword in some areas at the moment, but do you think it is a real game changer in your industry?
I think we will continue to see more and more of that. Again, I believe a lot in all these things like they don't work until they start working. So at some point, it was the same with online learning. It was always a bit boring. It was always a bit slow. It was always a bit like having not the best quality of video. But at some point, we had to do it. And then we discovered that it's possible and that we can keep on improving it. So we see now, I don't think that in the next 5 years, let's say, we will see teachers being replaced by AI agents. But what are the boring things that the teacher has to do today that can be taken over by an AI agent? Is it like suggesting content? Is it, I don't know, grading is it suggesting relevant resources? Is it like interacting with a student in order to make an experience a bit more interesting and a bit more engaging? I think we will continue to see more and more of these little add-on tools that will help us. In some cases, like with augmented reality, or let's say metaverse, there's obviously lots of buzz around these kinds of new technologies, and there might be a novelty effect that cannot always be sustained by the quality of the experience itself. But we will start seeing more and more of that, and I think in 10 years people will be learning mostly in a virtual environment. That's something that I believe will happen once the technology supports it. Will start happening very soon.
And also, I think every business around the world is challenged with doing more with less, and also looking after their existing customers. So on that front, how can customer education help organizations attract and retain those customers and stop them from?
It's very important for businesses, as you mentioned. They have to do more with less. And especially now for businesses, over the past couple of years, it became much more apparent how important existing customers is, and how you keep supporting your existing customers and keep investing in their success and in how best they can use your tools or your software or your hardware or whatever. So as I mentioned before, I believe that education is the best form of marketing. Teaching can be so giving and can be so fulfilling for both sides, for the person that teaches and for the person that is something new. So we see this trend, instead of, let's say, a company with a few thousand customers, instead of adding more and more support agents and customer success agents, which you cannot always find, and people are in many cases not always willing, as part of the great resignation or renegotiation, are not always willing to take on these kinds of work. You can train your users. You can give them the guidance and the skills that they need to be successful. So instead of being reactive and having your customer support agents try to solve problems after they have happened, you can teach people, you can be proactive, and you can show them how they can become successful. So we see more and more of those academies. I mean, in the software industry, there are some great examples like the HubSpot Academy or Salesforce Academy, but now we see it every day, even smaller businesses that are trying to make more with less, instead of having to rely on support agents or having to do huge marketing campaigns. They just create training around their product. That helps with branding, that helps with brand recognition, it helps with awareness about the problem, and it also helps with keeping people actively using your tool or your product, and it leads to more sales at the end of the day. So even as in LearnWorlds as a business, some of our most successful marketing campaigns have happened around an online course, a free online course teaching you something about the subject you care about. It could be something about how to do a great podcast. It can be an amazing lead magnet for people that are interested in this subject. So this way you can gather around you and create a great community around content that you can share. And we see that in any kind of industry. It could be software, it could be hardware, even consumer goods businesses, let's say selling pasta. they create online courses actually teaching you how to cook pasta. What a better way to promote your products than showing how people can actually use them successfully in interesting and engaging ways. So I think we will be seeing more of that. It's a clear trend. And this year, as a company, we're also focusing on how to help businesses solve this problem. While LearnWorlds' primary functionality is to help people also sell online courses. We have all the built-in marketing tools that people need to sell their courses and get revenue, but perfectly well, somebody can just use the platform to educate their internal customers or their external customers, associates, resellers, all sorts of people that engage in the value chain of a business.
Oh, I love that. And your passion for this subject really comes through as well. And looking further into the future, what excites you and what excites you about the role that your technology could play in that future too?
I have to say that it's not only about me, it's about the entire business. We have been so overwhelmed in the past couple of years by the response of customers who were able to transition their business online, even salvage their business by transitioning online and growing in this space. So we are amazed every day to meet amazing creators who come with us with some great courses, great content, innovative business models, and we are able, with our technology, to help them build their online school of their dreams and succeed in this space and, become digital nomads or get the revenue that they deserve or achieve their objectives. So there really is, in our space, a democratization of e-learning, so people can actually create their own little Udemy or their own little masterclass or their own little Coursera with just our software, with just a basic subscription, without having to rely on a team of developers, designers, or whatever, which obviously people cannot afford. That's the beauty of software, and software as a service in particular. With just a subscription, with just an all-in-one tool like LearnWorlds, you can have an entire business in a box. And it's amazing when you see that this a business like that doesn't require any huge investments. All it takes sometimes is a laptop with a camera and a microphone, and people can just record their knowledge. And so many students, hundreds or thousands of students, can be positively affected by one amazing content creator or teacher. So it's a great thing to see how many trainers we touch and help every day, and how many more students get positive results out of these kinds of training. So it's a business with a mission, and we're looking forward to help even more people transition online and profit from their knowledge.
Well, I've loved chatting with you today, but before I let you go, we started talking about our origin story, and now I'm going to ask you if there's anything that's inspired or accompanied you on your journey, whether it be a song, music, book, or anything. Is there a choice and a story you can share with us to leave everyone on an inspirational note?
Well, I'm a techie, and I'm also a huge fan of science fiction.
Yeah,
it's one of the things that since I was a kid was showing me, the potential of in a different context. So like you could see what the results of technology could be in society. So, and also teaching you to think out of the box. So my favorite book of all times that I like, at least I read it at least once a year. Is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, one of my favorite authors. It was also a huge BBC series, I think, back in the day. So it was. It's an amazing book that really helps you think out of the box and see what is possible by just connecting people and giving people access to knowledge.
Brilliant. And for anyone listening that would like to stay in touch with you, contact your team or find out more information about LearnWorlds, when's the best starting point?
People can always visit our website, www.learnworlds.com. If they're thinking about starting an online school, we have amazing free resources that they can download. And also they can very easily just start a 30-day free trial, no credit cards, no commitments, no strings attached. And they can just connect with our folks who will be happy to help them test if this is something that they want to use.
Well, I've loved chatting with you today, learning more about you and your co-founders, how you started LearnWorlds, what problems it solves for your customers, and how you're helping companies build online academies for customer education. But more than anything, it was your human story behind all this and your passion for the topic of learning and helping people that really shines through. And I always say that technology works best when it brings people together, and that is exactly what you're doing with your forming of these communities. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and share that story with me today.
Thanks, Neil, for having me.
I must admit, this is something I need to get better at, and I will be looking at how it might be able to help me create some courses at some point. Because I always think that if you've received the same email repeatedly and you find yourself typing out that same email reply, that is somebody asking you for your expertise. And instead of just repetitively typing that out, that email, why not build a course? But I must admit, I've never had the time to get my ideas on paper. I mean, with my writing and recording this podcast every single day, I need to find a way of squeezing a little bit more time out of this world. But I know that is a common problem too. But what is your area of expertise? Did anything today inspire you or make you want to explore what you can bring? Or maybe you're a business and you want to see how LearnWorlds can help you. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear more about you, your situation, and the role that technology is playing in your life or business. So keep those messages coming in to techblogwriter@outlook.com. Remember to connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram at Neil C. Hughes. I'll be back again tomorrow, but a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.